House will please be in order. Those persons not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber at this time, and all members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by Pastor Mitchell Bias, the guest of the gentleman, the 20th, Delegate Brown.
Let's bow for prayer. Our Heavenly Father, I come before you in the name of your Son, Jesus, to seek your wisdom, justice, and righteousness in these days, both for our state and our nation. We know that any greatness that we have comes from your presence among us. You, Heavenly Father, are our most valuable resource and our most treasured relationship. As our national motto proclaims, we are one nation under God. So under this bold national declaration, we call upon you to be with us, to lead us, and to protect us. Father, we especially thank you today for West Virginia. Your word has declared in Acts 17:26 that you have predetermined our times and the boundaries of our habitation. We are West Virginians today by your sovereign and divine arrangement. We call, Lord, today, West Virginia, to your remembrance, that you will bless us and be with us. We remember this state is the only state formed by executive order of the highest office of the land, that of the President Abraham Lincoln in 1863. It is obvious that you so ordered this state and the boundaries of our habitation, using the highest office of authority in the land. West Virginia, therefore, is a special place to your heart. Here dwells a God-fearing people, a remnant people, in many ways a hidden people, kept hidden and set aside for your divine purposes and for your divine presence. We hear the revelatory words of the state song, O West Virginia hills, how majestic and how grand, with our summits bathed in glory like our Prince Emmanuel's land. We ask today that the words of this precious and wonderful song be fulfilled throughout our state. May West Virginia, beginning at this beautiful capital, in these sacred chambers and extending throughout the land, be a place of your presence. May your righteous orders alone be executed from these chambers. May your kingdom come and your will be done as we're instructed to petition you in each of our deliberations and decisions. And finally today, Father, bless these servants of yours, our delegates. Bless their families, build a hedge of protection about them. Bless them when they come in and when they go out. And may they be your hands extended that are anointed with privilege. Let great grace rest upon them from heaven. May they be men and women of sacred prayer, and in that men and women of spiritual power. May they be granted an amazing endowment of your wisdom to lead our state. Be with our president today, our vice president, our governor, and all of our legislators today as we look to you, Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, amen.
Members and guests will please remain standing as we are led in the Pledge of Allegiance by the gentleman, the 20th, Delegate Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The chamber will join me in reciting the pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All members and guests may be seated. Introduction to guests, reading the journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Monday, January 20th, 2020.
The gentleman, the 28th, Delegate Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
The gentleman, the 28th, Delegate Pack, asks unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? Chair hears no objections. Reading of the journal is dispensed with. Introduction to guests. The gentleman, the 6th, Delegate Kelly.
Draw the House's attention to the North Gallery as I introduce some very special folks from Tyler County, Sistersville, from the, excuse me for just a minute, from the Sistersville Nature Seekers 4-H Club, Katie Ash, Ava Gorel, Kate Gorel, Maddie Tarnacki, if they would stand. Also the nutrition outreach instructor, Julia Boland, and our extension agent from Tyler County, Dave Snively. Would they stand, please? The House make them feel welcome.
The lady in the 49th, Delegate Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the West Gallery today, I have on WVU Day my local extension agent, John Murray, if he would stand and the House make him welcome, and his stepson, Orion post was supposed to be with him, but he broke his ankle. So anyway, thinking of him. Thank you.
The lady from 32nd, Dr. Kessinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorary Secretary of State Award Program is hosted by our Secretary of State and supported by our county clerks. The Jennings Randolph Award is named for the late United States Senator Jennings Randolph of West Virginia, who is considered the father of the 26th Amendment that reduced the voting age to 18. The Jennings Randolph Award is presented to those West Virginia high schools who register at least 85% of their eligible students to vote. The 2019-2020 school year marks the 26th anniversary of the award. In just the last 3 years, more than 43,000 high school students here in West Virginia have been registered to vote. An honorary Secretary of State is a high school student who had a leadership role in his or her high school becoming a Jennings Randolph Award-winning school. The recognition is limited to just 2 students for each high school that earns the award. Mr. Speaker, in the gallery today with the Secretary of State, Max Warner, are 6 students from my district who have earned the title of Honorary Secretary of State for leading their student body to register 100% of their eligible students to vote. Only one school in the entire state has been a Jennings Randolph Award-winning school all 26 years, Meadow Bridge High School. I would like to ask each of today's special guests to stand as I read their name. Austin Sims and Zachary Wood from Midland Trail High School. Lane Jordan and Nathaniel Bloomfield from Oak Hill High School, as well as their teachers Brett Floyd and Sarah Case. Betty Watson and Zeph Sims from Meadow Bridge High School and their teacher Corey Woodrum. Let's extend our congratulations to these outstanding student leaders and give them a warm welcome. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to welcome Fayette County's new clerk, Alicia Treadway, if she would please stand and the House would make her welcome.
The gentleman from 27th, Dr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The delegates representing Mercer County are also pleased to have a group of 4-H members from the Mercer County 4-H group, and they're escorted today by their extension agent, Brenda Pruitt. If they manage to squeeze into the gallery, please stand and the House make them welcome. Welcome.
The gentleman from 28th, Dr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the delegation here that represents Monroe County, I would like to introduce a group of national and state 4-H champions. They're in the North Gallery, and when I call their name in just a moment, I'm going to ask them to stand up. But they have won championships in national and state areas in land judging, beef quiz bowl, shotgun, air rifle, and muzzleloader competitions. And those folks are A.J. Chernoskas, please stand, Lauren Ballard, Caden Glover, Gavin Taylor, Gina Rosick, Shane Arthur, Emma Ballard, Aiden Kleinfelter, Shaylin Wickline, and Ethan Fullen. They are accompanied by their extension agent, Don Dransfield, and his volunteer, the volunteer that spends so much time helping him, Angie Chernoxis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please make them welcome.
The gentleman from the 9th, Dr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand a group from 4-Hers from Wirt County are present, so please make them welcome.
The gentleman from the 1st, Dr. McGeehan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have with us somewhere in the balcony, I believe, a former member of this body, my former office mate, Danny Wagner. Where are you, Danny? There he is. Make him welcome.
The gentleman of 39th, Dr. Bartlett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a guest today in the South Gallery, Mr. Byron Fisher. I'd like him to stand, please, and be recognized, and I'd ask that the members make him feel welcome today. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 29th, Douglas Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do have several guests from my district here today. With the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America, Luke Begovich is here today with a few of the folks from that union. I'd ask that you make him feel welcome and them feel welcome. As well, from the Bail Bonding Coalition, a few good friends, Daniel Hall and Will Sayer here today. I ask the House make them feel welcome. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 40th, Douglas Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to introduce one of our pages that is here for his 13th year. I'd like to introduce Braxton School. He is a 9th grader from Herbert Hoover High School and also a new big brother to Sophie. He is chaperoned by his parents, Robbie and Lori School. Lori is the documents clerk in the clerk's office, and Robbie is a police officer with the Capitol Police. Please make them feel welcome today.
The gentleman, the 41st, Douglas Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce a page we have with us today from Canvas, West Virginia. She is a student at Summersville Middle School. If Presley Perry would stand, the House please make her feel welcome.
The gentleman, the 13th, Douglas Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the gallery, we have a former member of this body, former delegate Joe Statler. If you'd please stand and the House make him feel welcome.
The gentleman, the 10th, Douglas Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you would join the delegates from Wood County, we have a group of 4-H'ers in the North Gallery. If they would please stand and the House please make them feel welcome.
The gentleman, the 23rd, Douglas Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to be able to present to you and the body 3 pages that we have from my alma mater, Van Junior Senior High School. They are Chloe Daniels, Kirsten Bogus, Kylie Lovejoy, if they would stand to be recognized, and as well as their parents who are located in the West Gallery, Jenny and Neil Bogus, Danielle Lovejoy, and Ashley Daniels. Would the House please make them feel welcome?
The gentleman, the 19th, Douglas Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Along with Robbie Thompson, I'm pleased to announce that we have 2 pages with us today, serving from Wayne County. These pages are Scott Flutie and Jonathan Student, and they both attend Fort Gay pre-K to 8th grade. Pages, please stand. House, please make them welcome.
The gentleman, the 19th, Douglas Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to introduce a couple pages from Fort Gay School, pre-K through 8 school. They are Isabella Kitts and Aaliyah Weaver. If they would please stand, give them a round of applause as well. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 50th, Douglas Caputo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegates Longstreth, Angelucci, and myself, we have some guests here from the WVU Extension Service in Marion County. They're in the South Gallery. We have Tina Calger. If you all would stand while I announce your name, please. We have Eva Beto and Sylvia Calabrese. Would the House please make them welcome? Thank you all for coming down.
The lady in the 51st, Douglas Fleischauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honor today to introduce a former member. She was a delegate here for 3 terms, and she represented the district where the Capitol is in, but now she is a resident of Monongalia County. So on behalf of the Fab Five, Delegate Walker, Hanson, Williams, and Piles, I would like to introduce Misha Poors. Since Valentine's Day 2 years ago, she has been Vice President of WVU for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Would the members please make our former delegate welcome?
The gentleman, the 50th, Douglas Angelucci.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegates Caputo and Longstreth in the South Gallery, I'd like to ask them to stand. We have representing Fairmont State University today, Legislative Liaison Dylan Bradley and Student Government Organization President Tyler Keller. And both of them also served as interns last year for the Senate and for the HEPC. So they've helped us tremendously. So would the House please make them feel welcome?
The gentleman at 34th, Doug Boggs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very, very pleased and honored this morning to recognize a very special page, Mackenzie Conrad. Mackenzie standing beside Leader Miley. So on behalf of Leader Miley and myself, we want to welcome her. And also in the gallery is her parents, Chris and Carla Conrad. And also, she is the niece of our very own Jennifer McPherson. Please make Mackenzie welcome.
The gentleman at 43rd, Doug Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have pages today on behalf of Delegate Thompson and myself from Jennings Randolph Elementary School in Elkins. We have Gabrielle Dempsey and Cora Heron, and their parents are in the West Gallery. If they would all stand and the House make them welcome.
Are there further introductions? If not, report to standing committees.
Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4215, Commissioner of Agriculture, Captive Cervid Farming, reports the same back with amendment with the recommendation that it do pass, that it be referred to Committee on Judiciary.
Report to be received. The bill to be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4208, Commissioner of Agriculture, Animal Disease Control, House Bill 4209, Commissioner of Agriculture, Fresh Food Act, House Bill 4210, Commissioner of Agriculture, Poultry Rules for Hatcheries, Growers, and Contractors pertaining to poultry disease control and eradication. House Bill 4211, Commissioner of Agriculture, Grade A Pasteurized Milk. House Bill 4212, Commissioner of Agriculture, West Virginia Manufacturer Grade Milk. House Bill 4213, Commissioner of Agriculture, West Virginia Exempted Dairy Farms and Milk Products Processing Rules. House Bill 4214, Commissioner of Agriculture, West Virginia Spay-Neuter Assistance Program. House Bill 4260, Commissioner of Agriculture, Auctioneers. House Bill 4261, Commissioner of Agriculture, Employment Reference and Inquiries and Background Checks. House Bill 4262, Commissioner of Agriculture, Industrial Hemp. And House Bill 4264, Commissioner of Agriculture, Farmers Markets, reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass, that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report to be received. All bills be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4224, Division of Forestry, Sediment Control During Commercial Timber Harvesting Operation Licensing. House Bill 4225, Division of Forestry, Sediment Control During Commercial Timber Harvesting Operations Logger Certification. House Bill 4236, Division of Natural Resources, Commercial Whitewater Outfitters. House Bill 4237, Division of Natural Resources, Transporting and Selling Wildlife Pelts and Parts. House Bill 4238, Division of Natural Resources, Boating Rule. House Bill 4239, Division of Natural Resources, Special Requirements Concerning Boating. House Bill 4240, Division of Natural Resources, Defining the Terms Used in All Hunting and Trapping. House Bill 4241, Division of Natural Resources, Prohibitions when Hunting and Trapping. House Bill 4242, Division of Natural Natural Resources, catching and selling bait fish. House Bill 4243, Division of Natural Resources, falconry. House Bill 4305, Division of Natural Resources, special boating role. House Bill 4306, Division of Natural Resources, public use of campgrounds in West Virginia state parks and state forests and campsites and state rail trails. House Bill 4307, Division of Natural Resources, special projects and grants for West Virginia state parks, state forests, and state rail trails. And House Bill 4308, Division of Natural Resources, special fishing role, reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass, that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report will be received. All bills will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Government Organizations had into consideration House Bill 4216, West Virginia Board of Dentistry, rule for the West Virginia Board of Dental Examiners. House Bill 4231, Division of Labor, supervision of plumbing work. House Bill 4232, Division of Labor, regulation of heating, ventilation, and cooling work. House Bill 4235, Division of Motor Vehicles, State Vehicle Title, Registration and Relicensing Project of 2018. House Bill 4244, Board of Occupational Therapy, fees for services rendered by the board. House Bill 4252, Board of Accountancy, board rules and rules of professional conduct. House Bill 4258, Board of Architects, registration of architects. House Bill 4259, Board of Architects, fees for registration of architects. House Bill 4269, West Virginia Board of Dentistry, dental advertising. House Bill 4304, Division of Motor Vehicles, Safety and Treatment Program. House Bill 4327, Board of Registration for Professional Engineers, Examination, Licensure, and Practice of Professional Engineers. House Bill 4328, Board of Professional Surveyors, Examination and Licensing of Professional Surveyors in West Virginia. House Bill 4339, Board of Social Work, qualifications for the profession of social work. House Bill 4340, Board of Social Work, fee schedule. House Bill 4341, Board of Speech, Language, Pathology, and Audiology, licensure of speech pathology and audiology. House Bill 4342, Board of Speech, Language, Pathology, and Audiology, disciplinary and complaint procedures for speech, language, pathology, and audiology. House Bill 4345, Board of Veterinary Medicine, organization and operation and licensing of veterinarians. House Bill 4346, Board of Veterinary Medicine, registration of veterinary technicians. And House Bill 4347, Board of Veterinary Medicine, schedule of fees, reports the same back with recommendation that each do pass, that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The report will be received. All bills will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had in consideration House Bill 4388, limiting the Alcohol Beverage Control Commissioner's authority to restrict advertising. Reports back to committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that a committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Committee on Judiciary has had in consideration House Bill 4002, creating a felony crime relating to drug delivery resulting in death. Reports back a committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had in consideration House Bill 4393, relating to making suffocation and asphyxiation crimes, and committee substitute for Senate Bill 94, providing persons with physical disabilities ability to vote by electronic absentee ballot. Reports the same back with recommendation that they each do pass.
The report will be received. Are there further reports of standing committees? If not, reports of select committees, messages from the executive, messages from the Senate.
The Clerk of the Senate announces the passage by the Senate of committee substitute for Senate Bill 16, creating Protect Our Right to Unite Act.
Message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 42, permitting faith-based electives in classroom drug prevention programs.
Message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 225, empowering municipalities to adopt street programs.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization. Are there further messages from the Senate? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 21, United States Army Specialist for Franklin D. Ashley II Memorial Bridge.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with and that each resolution be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
The lady in the 49th asks unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Are there objections? The chair hears no objections. Petitions, motions, bills introduced.
House Bill 4435, granting counties and municipalities a portion of the net terminal income from racetrack video lottery.
Lady in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and each bill be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Are there objections? The chair hears no objections. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4017, establishing country roads accountability and transparency.
Is there objection to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman, the 56th, Douglas Howell, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this bill is to create government transparency by requiring the state auditor to develop a website where taxpayers can search and compile information about spending on public roads without fee to the user of the website. West Virginia taxpayers who have seen increases in gas tax, DM fees, and the so-called privilege tax that people pay when they purchase a new vehicle deserve to know where their money is being spent. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 99 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 member absent not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4017.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4020, removing authority of municipalities to require occupational licensure if licensure for the occupation is required by the state.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman from 56, Douglas Howell, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill prohibits municipalities and counties from requiring licensing for occupations and trades. This does not prohibit local government from requiring building permits, nor does it impact any building codes. The language of the bill is also approved by the Joint Standing Committee on Government Organization during the January interim. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 61 ayes, 38 nays, 1 member absent not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4020.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4062, reducing the cost of prescription drugs.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman, the 28th, Douglas Pack, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. The purpose of House Bill 4062 is to reduce the cost of prescription drugs by requiring that rebates and other similar types of compensation received from a pharmacy benefit manager from a pharmaceutical manufacturer to be remitted directly to the covered person at the point of sale to reduce the cost of a specific drug, or to be used by the insurer to reduce the overall cost of future plans. Mr. Speaker, I urge its passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? The gentleman, the 60th, Douglas Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman please yield? Thank you, sir. Just a couple of quick questions. Does this bill impose any price controls?
No.
Does this bill take any action against free market activity? Does this bill actually change the price of the medication?
It could.
The price to the consumer?
Yes.
Not the actual price on the market?
Correct.
Okay, so all it does is it changes the person to whom the rebate is owed?
Correct.
From the company to the actual consumer,
Correct.
individual consumer?
Correct.
So there aren't any price controls at all? There's no government interference in free market cost of the drugs?
Not in the scenario that you just described.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there other members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 99 ayes, 0 nays, 1 member absent not voting. A majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4062.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, then the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4108, relating generally to certificates of need for health care services.
The objection is to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read. Chair hears no objections. The gentleman, the 41st, Douglas Hill, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill concerns the certificate of need process. The bill would eliminate the $1,000 application fee an individual is required to pay to the Healthcare Authority to acquire an exemption. It also removes the requirement that the Healthcare Authority review whether the requested exemption falls within statutory parameters. An entity would still need to submit paperwork to the Healthcare Authority detailing what actions or services an entity is performing. This reporting will enable the Healthcare Authority to keep up with services that are being provided through the exemption process. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? The gentleman, the first, Douglas McGeehan.
Yeah, thank you. Would the chair of the Health Committee please yield for
Chairman does yield.
Questions? So the way I read this is the bill essentially has a number of exemptions in it, and of those exemptions from the certificate of need process, those exemptions remove this $1,000 sort of fee from the applicant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how many? Can you just give me a roundabout figure on how expensive these fees could be?
Well, I could tell you that in 2018, 112 exemptions requests were filed, bringing in $112,000. And then as of October of 2019, 78 exemptions requests were filed, bringing in $78,000.
Okay, so an average fee would cost far more than $1,000. Is that correct?
Don't think I'm
an
following
average
you.
fee to apply for one of these exemptions under code from certificate of need is far in excess of the $1,000 mark in this bill. Is that correct? Because I'm being told conflicting information. Sometimes fees paid for these exempted sort of sub-disciplines within the healthcare field with these exemptions are far and above $1,000, maybe 6 figures sometimes. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the $1,000 fee is sort of marginal compared to some of the fees that have to be paid for these exempted sort of disciplines within the certificate of need, overall certificate of need program.
Correct.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Another question real quick. It seems that you struck plenty of paragraphs here in the com sub and that was the 45-day to review the exemption request. Okay. By striking that 45-day time frame, which my understanding from reading the original bill or the original statute is that 45 days was the time limit when the certificate of need, a decision had to be made to whether or not to grant the certificate of need or not. So by removing that 45-day provision within law pertaining to the certificate of need portion in law, are we then saying that no decision has to be made? Because if there's no time limit on when they have to make a decision to grant this exemption to get, authorized to do business in the healthcare field, then I'm reading it as no decision has to be made because you struck any type of deadline where the authorities have to make some sort of decision. Is that correct?
Yes, the exemption is automatically granted.
So, say that again?
The exemption is automatically granted.
The exemption is automatically granted, but I don't read that in the bill. It's just the whole paragraph from the 45-day arbitrary time limit when they had to make a decision to grant the exemption is removed. I don't see that anywhere in the code that was added, where it was mandatory that those applicants had to receive permission to move forward.
They no longer need to receive permission to move forward now.
What's that?
So they no longer need to receive permission to move forward.
Okay, but that's just within the specifics exemptions in code that we've already had, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thanks. Can I speak to the bill?
Yes, Jim was recognized.
Okay, this is really sort of a worthless bill, to tell you the truth. I mean, I'm going to vote for it because it's sort of like comparing it to, okay, we have a bill that's proposed that's going to reduce by 1% the average citizen's tax bill. Okay, that might be better. So yeah, I have a choice of yes or no. So I'll go with yes, since the bill is proposing to reduce the average citizen's tax bill by 1%. But believe me, that's kind of laughable, because all we're doing is specifically with this concept is operating on the margins. I've served with some people in this chamber. This is my 8th regular session. I've served with some people in this chamber for all 8 sessions. When the Republicans took over in 2015, I believe this is the 6th session I've served with many of you with GOP majority. And we always, many people in this room, especially on the right side of this room, have gone out on the campaign trail and completely advocated in some of their talking points about eliminating entirely the certificate of need in this state. This, to me, is, for lack of a better way of putting it, sort of a joke. We're just sort of operating in the margins, and I have personally been at different campaign functions where candidates in this chamber running for office have gone up there and said, we need to eliminate the certificate of need. We need to get rid of it. And this is 5, 6, 7 years gone by where we've done nothing on this. We've just operated in the margins. Just like this. I mean, waiving a $1,000 fee when some of these fees cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, that to me is almost laughable, really, because this bill is sort of so watered down that it's only marginally better than what we have now. You know, so this regulation, the certificate of need regulation, is probably the greatest obstacle to investment in our state in the healthcare industry. Okay, it's not just the fees that you have to pay for to receive a consideration to receive a certificate of need. Okay, the certificate of need basically has an algorithm which, by de facto, sort of outlaws competition. So, if you really want to see the healthcare industry improve, invest, and provide a plethora of options to the citizens of this state, we just need to eliminate the certificate of need. Many other states have already done this, and they've seen explosions in their healthcare industry, much more competition. And at the end of the day, consumers have far more options to choose from. Look up in my way in the Northern Panhandle. If the certificate of need would to go by the wayside, all of a sudden, you know, competition is no longer outlawed, and now you have almost immediate investment, I can guarantee you, from the Pittsburgh market and the 3 giant complexes of the different healthcare industries and the 3 different hospitals that are sort of the big conglomerates in Pittsburgh. They would start investing in the Northern Panhandle, offering clinics, offering surgical centers. I mean, a great many different, large amount of options available for the consumer. And these, at the end of the day, these decisions have to be, they really have to be decided between the consumers and the producers. Not this central planning sort of bureaucratic decision-making in Charleston about what is exactly needed in the market. And you know, I'm going to blame a few people in here. I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to blame a few people in here because this has been going on for years. Okay? This was the Republican Party platform when the Republicans took over the legislature back in 2015. We need to dissolve the certificate of need. It's a great way forward. Allow competition. I mean, the certificate of need, essentially, just to boil it down, outlaws competition in our state. I mean, how can that even be a Republican principle? Outlawing competition? We're denying options. We are denying options to the consumer. Options that have never come to fruition. The seen and the unseen. That's what we're doing. And we're blocking potential investment from immediately coming into our state. Eliminating the certificate of need entirely, I can guarantee you we'll have automatic massive investment in different sections and different geographic areas of West Virginia within a year. I know we would up my way. And I've heard all the different talking points that usually are derived from the lobbying forums from the hospital association. Heard them all. They're so fallacious and they're such a joke. So don't bother bringing those up in front of me because it's just so absurd. Okay? This is a conjunction. It's either A or B. It's no more black or white. It's not black or white. It's completely black or white. It's either one or the other, not both. It's as clear cut as it could get. If you believe in free enterprise and that these types of decisions have to be left between the producers and the consumers, then you cannot possibly believe that a regulation, which is essentially a command backed up by the force of law from the central government that outlaws competition, and still try to say that you believe somehow in free markets. That's just a joke. You know, so I think it's, to wrap this up, I think it's one thing I've noticed on the campaign trail. If you're a Republican and you're going around saying we need to make this state more business friendly, and you have this talking point about how we have to do something about the certificate of need in front of your constituents at town halls, and then you come in here and you just pander to the lobbyists who give you cash, and you come up with watered down bills like this that absolutely do nothing to address the problem, then don't come talk to me, because that's completely dishonest, and it's either dishonest or a sign of ignorance or maybe both. So I really put this at the foot of leadership. I really do. Okay? We have very smart folks in the Republican caucus who are considered quote-unquote leadership. Unfortunately, they sometimes do not demonstrate real leadership. That's the problem. Because sometimes real leadership is just too hard.
Ladies raised a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I consider that to be crossing the line, personally attacking members of this body. I object.
Chair would remind all members to stick to the merits of the bill. Gentleman may proceed.
I am sticking to the merits of the bill, so please let me talk before you interrupt me again. So basically, we need real leadership. Okay? We do. Because this is obvious here. This is the most Republican policy we can pretty much arrive at. Whether you believe that the central government should outlaw competition in a certain industry, or you don't. It's a conjunction. It's either A or B. It's not both. I'm disappointed once again.
Lady in the 49th, Douglas Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to speak to this bill.
Ladies recognized.
As the lead sponsor of the repeal to Certificate of Need, I take a little bit offense to my colleagues' comments that I'm not interested as a person of leadership in proceeding with that bill, but I will not force anyone in this caucus to vote for something that they don't believe in. This bill that we have before us today allows, if there are exemptions from Certificate of Need, can you believe a governmental process I think someone said they thought this was worthless, but a governmental process that says you're exempt from this bureaucratic process of Certificate of Need, but guess what? You got to get government approval first, and you better give me $1,000. Once you pay me $1,000, I'll tell you that you're really exempt, even though you're listed as exempt. $1,000, and you have to wait for them to tell you, we know you're exempt, but you're really exempt. That is bureaucracy at its finest. It is not worthless to me to get government out of the way of the process of trying to expand health care in our state. During health, we heard testimony that 78 people currently have applied for this exemption. Every single one gets the exemption. Just like last year, 112 people applied for the exemption. It's a funding mechanism for the Health Care Authority. I'm going to give you this money and I'm going to tell you you're exempt even though you're already listed as probably exempt. So I would urge passage of the bill.
The gentleman the 58th, I got Coles. The gentleman the 17th, I got Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too am going to speak in favor of this bill. As the gentlelady just said, folks, this is basically a government shakedown. If every application is approved and all we're doing is taking away a fee of $1,000 that we, the state, impose on people to get what they're already entitled to under the statute that exists, that is a government shakedown. All we're doing with this bill is eliminating the fee and getting, into my opinion, getting the state in a more business-friendly position, because that is an anti-business fee to needlessly cause people to pay the money. So I would urge the members, as someone who's affected by this, I would urge the members to adopt this piece of legislation. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 50th, Delegate Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to be very, very brief here. I agree with the Majority Leader. This is a very meaningful bill. When we had testimony in Health Committee to know that 100% of those hospitals and those healthcare agencies that submitted for an exemption had to pay a $1,000 fee to be told, we know you're exempt, but now we're going to tell you you're exempt now that we have your money. That's ridiculous. This is going to save money for healthcare industry in West Virginia, and I support passage of this bill. Thank you.
The gentleman, the first, Delegate McGeehan.
I'll just say one thing. I'm going to give you an analogy. Propose the opposite. Imagine the opposite. Imagine the certificate of need here, the central planning, didn't exist. Yet, I'll just name a name. The General Majority Leader over there proposed to implement this non-competitive mandate, this certificate of need, and invoked it and pushed it on the House floor. How many people, and this is before it ever existed, this is the reverse, how many people in here would honestly think that was a good idea to outlaw competition and then vote in favor of implementing such a program? If you're honest with yourselves, and you don't have to be some sort of free market Puritan, just a garden variety Republican or, conservative Democrat that believes in free enterprise, how many people would vote to implement some sort of scheme like this to outlaw competition and only have central bureaucrats making these decisions? So imagine the reverse. I think we know the answer. It's absurd. So all we're doing is understanding the concept is absurd, and we're trying to get rid of it so we can finally have real investment in competition in the healthcare industry in this state. That's it. The bill in front of us is, some of it's all right, some of it's not very well written. When I say all right, it's like marginally all right. It's like I find out that we're passing a bill that will discount 1% off your tax bill. Yeah, that's kind of better, right? But really, is that we all came down for? To run marginally insignificant bills like this? Anyway, I'm going to make my mind up here in a minute. But those are my last words here.
Does the gentleman, the 41st, Douglas Hill, wish to close debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 99 ayes, 0 nays, 1 member absent not voting. Majority of members present having voted in the affirmative. Chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4108.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, then the title is read by the clerk. Will be to read the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4130, relating the competitive bidding for government construction contracts arising out of declared states of emergency.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objections. The gentleman, the 27th, Douglas SHOTT, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is recommended by as an interim bill through the Joint Committee on Flooding. As you'll recall, that committee has met frequently in response to the problems created by the June 2016 flooding. Among those who have collaborated with or provided input to the committee during the process is the Commerce Department, the Development Office of the Commerce Department, the State Auditor's Office, the Governor's Office, the Purchasing Division, the West Virginia Home Builders Association, and the Contractors Association of West Virginia. Currently, this is the current law, all construction projects exceeding $25,000 in total cost are required to be competitively bid under the West Virginia Fairness and Competitive Bidding Act, which is codified at West Virginia Code Section 522.1. Because its definition includes the phrase, a specifically identified scope of work, the term construction project has been interpreted to mean that a physical address or location is required before bids for a project may be solicited. As applied to residences, this requirement means that the individual address of each home must be listed in the solicitation, resulting in a significant slowing of the procurement process for contracts of residential projects related to that devastating June 2016 flooding. This bill, now restricted to residential structures as a result of the amendment we passed yesterday, is intended to expedite the reconstruction and rehabilitation of homes damaged by flooding or other disasters. What the bill does is add a new section to the Competitive Bidding Act that allows the state to solicit competitive bids on an open-ended basis as to quantity or on a unit price basis for construction projects that arise out of a state of emergency declared by the governor. The state may also award contracts for such a solicitation to multiple bidders, which creates a pool of qualified responsible contractors. If multiple contracts are awarded, the state must first offer the work to the lowest bidder and then to the next lowest, and so on until the work is either accepted or there are no remaining contract holders willing to perform the work. Under this section, solicitations and contracts are not required to specify the addresses or specific location of the projects, so long as there is a mechanism or process by which the location will be identified before work commences. The state agency may also, in its discretion, choose not to require payment or performance bonds to be furnished, so long as it is made clear in the solicitation that bonds will not be required. Mr. Speaker, this bill allows the state to be better prepared to respond to the needs of its citizens in the event of another similar disaster. I urge its passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are the members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 99 ayes, 0 nays, 1 member absent not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, and chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4130.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I move the bill take effect from passage.
The lady from the 49th moves that the bill be made effective from passage. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 99 ayes, 0 nays, 1 member absent not voting. 2/3 of members elected having voted in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill effective for passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4141, requiring the Department of Administration to publish its comprehensive annual financial report by the end of December.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman of 56, Douglas Howell, is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the bill is to require the Department of Administration to publish its comprehensive annual financial report by the end of December of the calendar year in which the fiscal year reported upon ended. I urge passage.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 99 ayes, 0 nay, 1 member absent not voting. The majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4141.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, then the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action to the House, to the Senate, and request concurrence therein. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, then bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2086, Uniform Real Property Electronic Recording Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4077, increasing the amount of the bond required to be posted by proprietary schools.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4119, establishing the crime of torture.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4275, authorizing Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety promulgate legislative rules relating to Fire Commission.
Are there amendments?
Delegates Fleischauer and Westphal move to amend the bill on page 1, section 1, line 8, following the word authorized by striking out the period and inserting a colon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to advance the bill to third reading with the amendment pending.
Late in the 49th, ask unanimous consent to advance the bill to third reading with the amendment pending. Are there objections? Gentlemen, from the 16th, Douglas Foster is recognized.
Question about your motion with amendment pending. Is it specifically the amendment or
the amendment that's in the system pending?
But could the amendment be amended on third?
That is not my motion.
So the amendment would have to go forward only as is?
Well, wouldn't we tomorrow, like you did yesterday when we're bringing up amendments, be able to ask for unanimous consent to amend the amendment?
Chair will respond to that question. It would be a primary amendment is an amendable motion. Secondary amendments would be in order.
All right, thank you.
The question before the House is the lady's request that the bill be advanced to third reading with the amendment pending. Are there objections? Chair hears no objections. Bill will be advanced. Objection is heard. Objection is heard. Clerk will read the amendment.
Delegates Fleischauer and Westphal move to amend the bill on page 1, section 1, line 8, following the word authorized by striking out the period and inserting a colon and the following, with the following amendment on page 4, section 4 of the rule by striking out the provisions of 4.1K1 in its entirety.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment as just read by the clerk. The amendment is amendable. Are there amendments? The gentleman of the 60th, Douglas Wilson, for a point of order.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Was that a motion or a request for unanimous consent?
The request by the lady in the 49th?
Yes, sir.
The lady asked unanimous consent.
Yes, sir. Would that be followed by a motion?
It could be. One was not made. The question before the House is the amendment. Lady in the 49th?
I move that Mr. Speaker, I move that the action be postponed one day.
The question before the House is that action be postponed one day. This would have the effect of leaving the bill on second reading with the amendment pending. Those in favor of the lady's motion to postpone action one day will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. Chair declares the lady's motion adopted. Action will be postponed one day on committee substitute for House Bill 4275. Next bill on second reading.
House Bill 4417 relating to permitting professional boards.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4419 relating to the Controlled Substance Monitoring Database.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on second reading? If not, bills on first reading.
House Joint Resolution 102 providing a West Virginia Legislature rulemaking oversight of the Board of Education.
Bill to be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4058 relating to pharmacy benefit managers.
Bill to be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4094 continuing to foster care ombudsman.
Bill to be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleague Delegate Rowe.
Are there objections to a leave being granted? Chair hears no objection. Leave shall be granted. Remarks by members of the House. Remarks by members of the House. If none, introduction of guests. Introduction of guests. The gentleman from the 22nd, Douglas Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to announce our Doctor of the Day is Melissa Price from Huntington, West Virginia. If she would stand, and the House make her welcome.
Are there further introductions? If not, miscellaneous business. The lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, that the House adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
The question before the House is the motion by the lady from the 49th that's subject to announcements. The House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. Are there announcements? Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Rules will meet at 10:45 tomorrow behind the chamber.
The gentleman from the 10th, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, January 22nd at 5 p.m. for budget presentation from the Attorney General. Also, your committee will also be meeting immediately following the AG's budget presentation for the purpose of running a rules bill. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 35th, Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on the Judiciary will meet tomorrow, January 22nd, in the committee room at 5 p.m. We will announce this again tomorrow, but a heads up, that agenda will be posted.
The gentleman from the 15th, Doug Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Judiciary Subcommittee on House Bill 4006, that is delegate from the 3rd, Delegate Fluharty, from the 48th, Delegate Waxman, from the 35th, Delegate Byrd, from the 65th, Delegate Brown S., from the 35th, Delegate Capito, and from the 32nd, Delegate Kessinger. We'll meet in the Judiciary Committee room on Wednesday, tomorrow, Wednesday, at 3 o'clock.
The gentleman from the 13th, Doug Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, January 22nd at 5 p.m., and the agenda will be posted.
The gentleman from the 62nd, Doug Bibby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security will meet this afternoon at 2 p.m. in Government Organization Room, and the agenda is posted. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 17th, Doug Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Senior, Children, and Family Issues will meet tomorrow, January 15th, in the House Government Organization Room at 3 p.m. The agenda will be posted.
The gentleman from the 46th, Doug Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Industry and Labor will meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the Judiciary Room. Also, the members of the Republican caucus will meet 15 minutes before the meeting in the Judiciary Chair Room. Again, that is Industry and Labor tomorrow, January 22nd at 1 p.m.
The gentleman from the 17th, Doug Rohrbach.
A correction, it's January the 22nd, not January the 15th.
The gentleman from the 16th, Doug Mant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Small Business, Entrepreneurship, and Economic Development will meet at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon in the House Government Organizational Room, and the agenda will be posted. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 53rd, Doug Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Fire Departments and EMS will meet tomorrow, January 22nd, 9 o'clock in the House Gov Org room. The agenda will be posted.
The gentleman from the 16th, Doug Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Technology and Infrastructure will meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow in the House Judiciary Committee room, and the agenda has been posted.
The gentleman from the 35th, Doug Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Pensions and Retirement will not meet today. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 10th, Doug Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a reminder, your Committee on Energy will meet today in Judiciary Committee room at 4 p.m. and Republican members will caucus in the Chairman's office at 3:30 briefly. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 28th, Doug Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two announcements, the first of which is your Committee on Health and Human Resources will meet today at 4 p.m. in the East Wing Conference Room. The agenda has been posted. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, Republican members of the House will caucus here in the chamber briefly right after the floor session.
The gentleman from the 36th, Doug Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On your desk, you have an invite from the West Virginia Public Health Caucus. The West Virginia Public Health Caucus will be meeting in the Senate Judiciary Room 208 West at 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 3rd, Doug Fluharty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The newly formed Tech Caucus will have its first meeting tomorrow, January 22nd at 11:30 in the McManus Room. We'll be hosting folks from Apple, so anybody who wants to come join, lunch will be provided as well. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 50th, Doug Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats will caucus immediately upon adjournment in the House Government Organization Committee room. Democrats will caucus immediately upon adjournment in House Gov Org. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there additional announcements? If not, the question is on the motion that the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. Those in favor will say aye. Any opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares the motion adopted. The House stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
The Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. And with those on the floor and our guests in the gallery, please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by Reverend Tom Bias. He's retired United Methodist clergy in Madison, West Virginia. And then please remain standing as we are led in the pledge this morning by the senator from Braxton, Reverend Bias.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we pray today for the men and women of the West Virginia Senate, and Lord, especially for the staff workers and the people who work behind the scenes to make government possible. May God continue to watch over them and lead them. Hear this morning these familiar words from a prayer attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make us an instrument of your peace. And where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, and to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Heavenly Father, we hear these words of the Apostle Paul, for Christ himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility. Paul continues in Galatians, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And now once again, most righteous and loving Heavenly Father, pour out now your blessings upon the men and women of the West Virginia Senate, the staff, Father, and the people behind the scenes as well. And may their hearts and minds find unity in Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray, and forever give thee thanks. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. The senator from Braxton County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the members and the staff and the folks in the gallery join me in the pledge to the greatest country in the world? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The reading of the journal.
West Virginia Legislature, Senate Journal, January 20th, 2020. The Senate met at 11:09 a.m.
The senator from Preston County requests unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guests. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As guest of the senior senator from the 8th, we have Andrew Chapman, Bailey Clendenin, and Albany Anastasio. And as guest of the junior senator from the 11th, the senator from Nicholas, we have Emily Major. And as guest of the senator from Jefferson, Lydia Hayes. If they would all please rise and the Senate give them a warm welcome. Thank you. You may be seated. Are there further introductions? The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senate, it's my pleasure and yours to introduce the doc of the day. In the rear of the chamber, we have with us the Dr. Melissa Price from Huntington, West Virginia. If you wouldn't mind standing, let the Senate give you a warm welcome.
Further introductions. The senator from Raleigh County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the senior senator and myself from District 9, I would like to introduce some very special guests in the North Gallery. The Honorary Secretary of State Award Program is hosted by our Secretary of State and supported by our county clerks. The Jennings Randolph Award is named for the late U.S. Senator Jennings Randolph of West Virginia, who is considered the father of the 26th Amendment that reduced the voting age to 18. The Jennings Randolph Award is presented to those West Virginia high schools who register at least 85% of their eligible students to vote. The 2019-20 school year marks the 26th anniversary of the award. In just the last 3 years, more than 43,000 high school students here in West Virginia have been registered to vote. That's fabulous. An honorary Secretary of State is a high school student who has had a leadership role in his or her high school, becoming a Jennings Randolph award-winning school. The recognition is limited to just 2 students for each high school that earns the award. Mr. President, in the North Gallery today with Secretary of State Mac Warner are 5 high school seniors who have earned the title of Honorary Secretary of State for leading their student body to register 100% of their eligible students to vote. I would like to ask each of today's special guests to stand as I read their name. Jillian Mitchell and Caleb Rourke from Shady Spring High School, Mercedes Lovell from Woodrow Wilson High School, and Julie Brown and Molly Cook from Westside High School in Wyoming County. I would like to also recognize those parents and the others that have joined them here to recognize them today. If you would please stand, and would the Senate please join me in giving them a warm welcome.
Thank you. Are there further introductions? The junior senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, it is your pleasure and mine to introduce the members of the Senate, the Mason County Commissioners, Tracy Doolittle, Rick Hanley, and Sam Nybert over here in the North Gallery. If you all would please stand as I mention your name. And also our Mason County Economic Development Authority Executive Director, John Musgrave, and our County Administrator, John Gerlach. These are really good people I've got to get to know well in this role as a Senator, and I know that you know them as well too. Would the Senate please make them welcome?
The senator from Nicholas County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor to have my first page today, and on behalf of the senior senator from the 11th, we would like to welcome her mother in the gallery today. If the Senate would join me in making her welcome, Miss Kim Major.
Further introductions, the senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Logan, we're very pleased to have the wife of our clergy here today, Nancy Bias. If she would stand and the Senate make her welcome.
The senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf and my senator from Kanawha's behalf, with us today, we have 3 of our pages. We have family members that are here, and I would ask that they stand. Angie and Brian Clendenin, Landon Chapman, Stephanie Chapman, and Samantha Antesio. If they would stand, the Senate make them welcome, please.
The senator from Mercer County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from the 6th, we have a 4-H group here from Mercer County today, led by Brenda Pruitt and Jody Richmond. That's a large group, so I'll read fast. Pearl Hamby, Marietta Buckner, Carl Pruitt, Deborah Walker, Brady Walker, Atlee Richmond, Riley Richmond, Gretchen Wood, Tori Lilly, Luke Hatfield, Chance Prophet, Elijah Wood, and Abby Hedrick. It's a large group, but I'm not sure what gallery they're in, but if they would stand, the Senate will make them welcome. Thank you.
The senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor and yours, sir, and on behalf of my senior senator from Braxton, to introduce some of our Gilmer County 4-H youth development folks who are down here with Jamie Mullins. If they'll stand, they're a wonderful group of students and wanting to learn about government and how it goes on down here. Will you please stand, Jamie? If you're up here, give them a nice round of applause, please.
The senator from Greenbrier County.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've got a group of Fayette County 4-H'ers today, 38 strong. If y'all will please stand up. They're here with their leaders, J.R. Davis, Diane and Montana Collison. If the Senate will please make these Fayette County 4-H'ers welcome.
The senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor and that of the senior senator from the 16th to welcome the chaperone for our page today. Would Jennifer Hayes and Matthew Hayes get up? And thank you for accompanying our page down here. Will the Senate make her feel welcome?
Are there further introductions? The senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Cabell, it's our pleasure to welcome with the AARP. And AARP is getting much more attention by me now as I've gotten older. But Erwin Scarberry, that is a great friend, longtime friend, and we were recollecting about my mother today. Keep her in her prayers if you would, please. But he had her in school, in class at Marshall, and he is a great friend, and we really appreciate him being here. Thank you.
Recognize the senator from Braxton again.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is your honor, as well as the junior senator from Harrison County, to also recognize some folks from the AARP who gladly volunteer their time to come down here and make West Virginia a little bit better place for our seniors. If Bob and Nellie Osborne and one of their new members, Phil Johnston, would stand, the Senate make them welcome.
The senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senior senator from Marion, located in East Gallery, we have some friends of ours down from Morgantown, Dr. Maja Holmes, Chair and Associate Professor of Public Administration, along with several students of Dr. Holmes with the WVU's MPA program. If the folks here in the Senate will make them welcome, and if they'll please rise. Thank you.
Further introductions? Further introductions. Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of House Bill 4010, changing the licensing requirement for certain casino employees.
Message will be received and referred to the Committee on Government Organization with a second reference to the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4091, allowing for expedited oil and gas well permitting upon payment of applicable expedited fees.
Message will be received and referred to Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining. Are there further communications from the House?
No, sir.
Communications from the Executive?
There are none.
Reports from standing committees?
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 144, creating misdemeanor penalty for making materially false statement in course of misdemeanor investigation, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 311 relating to court-ordered community service, and reports back committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 321 relating to collection of tax and priority of distribution of estate or property and receivership, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 4, urging Congress call convention to propose amendment on congressional term limits, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
That's all I have, sir.
Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bills. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 550 through 574 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
The junior senator from the 17th requests unanimous consent that Senate Bills number 550 through Senate Bill number 574 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution 7 by Senator Trump preserving the separation of powers amendment.
Resolution will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary with a second reference to Committee on Finance.
Senate Joint Resolution 8 by Senator Carmichael, Mr. President, Tar, Azinger, Swope, Rucker, and Takubo Manufacturing Growth Amendment.
Resolution will be resolution will be received and referred to Committee on Judiciary with a second reference to the Committee on Finance.
Senate Joint Resolution 9 by Senators Blair and Trump, amendment authorizing eliminate or lower ad valorem tax on motor vehicles and any other tangible personal property.
Resolution will be received and referred to the Committee on Judiciary with a second reference to Committee on Finance.
Senate Resolution 11 by Senator Tar designating January 22nd, 2020 as Disability Advocacy Day.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day. Are there further resolutions?
No, sir.
Motions? Petitions?
There are none.
Unfinished business?
Senate Resolution 10 designating January 21, 2020 as West Virginia University Day.
The Senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 10 designating January 21, 2020 as West Virginia University Day.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? The Senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. West Virginia University is the state's first and largest land-grant university, which has been dedicated to serving the citizens of West Virginia for more than 150 years. West Virginia University offers students the perks and programs of a major research institution at a price below the national average. It now offers 370 majors at the bachelor's, master's, doctoral, and professional levels, including everything from accounting to forensics. There are various health fields that have become centers of excellence internationally, including neuroscience. West Virginia Extension Service, we're all familiar with, the primary outreach arm, is the front porch of the land-grant institution with an office in each of the state's 55 counties. These service agents and specialists deliver trusted research and innovative solutions for the citizens of West Virginia in areas of youth development, agriculture, and family and community development. Its 4-H youth development program, the state's largest youth organization, has given more than 73,000 youths the opportunity to expand their horizons through hands-on pioneering program and camping experiences, such as inventing robots, discovering the world, nurturing healthy lifestyles, and exploring computer science as a part of the 4-H National Youth Science Day Challenge. So there's many things that our state's largest land-grant institution does. I think it's poised to help with our future economy, certainly our health system, and our education system by training well-prepared teachers to be put out into the state of West Virginia, thus making our workforce great. I urge passage of the resolution.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Junior Senator from the 17th moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. Is there further unfinished business?
No, sir.
Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 125, prohibiting victim from being subjected to certain physical examinations for sexual offenses. Third reading of the bill.
The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 125 amends a single section of the state code, and it's an evidentiary statute. It's in Chapter 61, Article 8B, Section 11. It is, in fact, our state's rape shield statute. The bill would amend it by adding a new subsection, designated as subsection E, which would provide that a court may not order or otherwise require an alleged victim in a prosecution for a sexual offense to submit to or undergo a gynecological or physical examination of the breasts, buttocks, anus, or any other part of the sex organs of the person. And then the second subdivision says the refusal of an alleged victim to undergo such an examination does not serve as the basis to exclude evidence obtained or from other relevant examinations of the victim, except where constitutionally required. And then there's a third subdivision that is explains the scope of the act. It applies only to criminal cases, and it's a response to a decision that was made by our State Supreme Court of Appeals about 10 years ago in the case of JW, State Ex Rel JW versus Knight. It is similar or identical, really, to a bill that we passed out of the Senate last year, but the bill did not make it across the finish line in the House of Delegates. The fundamental arguments in favor of this bill are, first of all, that a court's jurisdiction, in my opinion, to enter such an order is suspect anyway. In a criminal case, the victim is not a party before the court in a criminal case. The parties are the state, the people of West Virginia, and a defendant, one or more defendants. And so for a court to exercise authority to order a victim, in this case, the JW case, a minor victim, to undergo an intrusive examination at the request of a defendant is offensive. If this bill passes, it will place in line what I think is the proper circumscription of the court's jurisdiction in such a case, number one. Number two, there's a salutary effect, I think, that will come from the passage of this bill, and that is this. Under our current law, Mr. President, I think the prospect of being ordered to undergo a pelvic or gynecological examination at the request of a defendant is a deterrent. I think it deters women from making reports of sexual offenses committed against them. And then the third reason that I think supports passage of this bill is that the evidence to be gathered as a result of such an examination is not probative really in any particular way. If, you can envision a defendant in a criminal case saying, Your Honor, I'd like to have this victim examined, her vaginal area, as a result of, I want to have a doctor examine her to show that there's been no trauma to her body as a result of this act I'm accused of committing. Well, we're talking about acts that are alleged to have occurred many months, sometimes years before such an examination takes place. The human body heals. And so such an examination is not going, the absence of physical evidence of trauma a year or 2 years after the fact does not yield exculpatory evidence. It's not valid exculpatory evidence. And so, Your Honor, Mr. President, I would say that I think this bill will improve the body of law in West Virginia, provide protection to the women of this state who are victims of these serious crimes. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions, but I urge the bill's passage.
So further discussion, the senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just take a minute to thank our Judiciary Chair for once more moving this bill to the front. And we're addressing it so early in the session that its likelihood of passage down the hall has been enhanced. Once again, we see West Virginia moving to the forefront in the nation of taking action to look out for our victims of rape. This onerous decision that this bill will reverse would allow a criminal defendant and his attorney to force women who have come forward bravely, and men, come forward bravely as victims of sexual assault, and to allow mischief by the criminal defense attorney in an attempt to convince the woman to drop the case. The decision that we essentially overturn here has served as a deterrent for our victims of sexual assault. So again, I appreciate my chairman of Judiciary making this a priority, and I urge passage.
Is there further discussion? Not. The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent or not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Further bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 217, requiring DHHR collaborate with Workforce Development Board and West Virginia Division of Personnel for job placement. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Raleigh County.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill grants power to the Secretary to direct the Commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Resources to cooperate and collaborate with the Workforce Development Board, the West Virginia Division of Personnel, and the West Virginia Department of Education in job placement of unemployed personnel who receive state benefits.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not. Question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 323, authorizing Department of Administration promulgate legislative rules. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 323 is the first of our rules bundles to hit the floor. And this is the bundle that comes from the Department of Administration. It contains 6 rules, 5 of which are from Department of Administration and 1 from Public Defender Services. So there's 6 initial bills rolled into this, and I would compliment, as I always try to remember to do, the hard work of the Rulemaking Review Committee throughout the whole year in crafting and fashioning these administrative rules that come to us in bundles for enactment during the legislative session. The first rule in this bundle is modifies 148 CSR 12, and that is the Department of Administration relating to the general administration, records management, and preservation of records. The second rule in the bundle amends 148 CSR 13, also a Department of Administration rule relating to retention and disposal scheduling, again, of records. The bundle contains a rule amending 148 CSR 14, again, a Department of Administration rule relating to the management of records maintained by the Records Center. The bundle contains an amendment to 148 CSR 23, which is a Department of Administration rule relating to exemptions for management services provided by the Fleet Management Division. This is a new rule, and it comes from House Bill 4015, which was passed during the 2019 regular session related to the state's Fleet Management Division. In the bundle is a rule from the Department of Administration, 148 CSR 24, relating to financial services reporting, and that implements the provisions of West Virginia Code 5A 2B1 at SEEK, which was enacted in the 2018 regular session as part of Senate Bill 271, and it created a shared services section within the Finance Division of the Department of Administration. Finally, the bundle contains a rule that comes from the Public Defender Services, and that relates to the payment of fees, reimbursement of expenses for court-appointed counsel in cases where the defendants are indigent. That's codified at 89 CSR 1, and it's a new rule, but it incorporates the provisions of Senate Bill 103 from last year, from 2019. Members of this body will remember that the legislature increased by $15 payment to court-appointed counsel for work in court from $65 to $80 an hour, and for out-of-court work from $45 to $60 an hour. And the bill also changed the procedures for the submission of vouchers. They now go directly to the Public Defender Service, bypassing the circuit judge. They only go to the circuit judge now if there are conflicts between what should or should not, between the court-appointed attorney and Public Defender Services, conflicts about what should or should not be paid. Then the matter goes to the appointing judge for resolution. Mr. President, I'd be happy to try to answer questions about the bundle. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not. The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage. On question unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and requests unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? The chair hears none. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Are there further bills on third reading?
No, sir.
Bills on second reading?
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 192 relating to West Virginia Secondary School Activities Commission audits.
Junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill lie over one day while retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 297 requiring Board of Education create home economics course.
Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill lie over one day while retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Go ahead.
Senate Bill 307, correcting code citation relating to certain tax liens. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 322, relating to pre-qualifications for state contract vendors. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Further bills on second reading?
No, sir.
Bills on first reading?
There are none.
Introduction of guest. The senator from Greenbrier County. Under introductions?
Introductions.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Monroe and myself, we're fortunate to have some Monroe County 4-H'ers with us here today. Not sure which gallery they're in. If they could please stand and the Senate could make them feel welcome with Mr. Don Dransfield, their leader.
The senator from Monroe County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also, on behalf of my colleague from Greenbrier, I want to make welcome from Summers County, the President of the County Commission, Mr. Jack David Woodrum. Thank you.
Further introductions? Further introductions. Remarks by members of the Senate. The senator from Raleigh County.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues for helping to advance the need to deal with the Senate Bill 217 on the SNAP benefits, where we are trying to deal with getting those folks to work, but we find out that there's a little bit of a problem in the cooperation between the state agencies, where for every 40 that are checked off by the DHHR, there's only about 3 of them, maybe 4 of them at the most, that are even interested or even trying to do anything with the work. So there's a real problem there, and we're trying to get a fix on that. Secondly, I want to state to our colleagues that, and to you, Mr. President, that we have been told that there's almost 92% of a graduation rate in West Virginia, which is excellent. However, we have some real problems and discrepancies that we're trying to deal with, having a prepared workforce for West Virginia businesses and for future development and growth. We are told by some in higher ed that it takes as much as 1.5 years to 2 years to get some of these 92% grads up to college level. There's a problem that needs to be addressed there. I have some numbers. Of the 6,487 graduates in West Virginia public schools, there are some 519 that drop out and don't graduate. That's the other 8%. 519 just go somewhere that nobody knows. There's no tracking, there are no questions, they're just into the system, or no system, they're just on their own. That leaves 5,968 graduates. Of those 5,968 graduates, there are approximately almost 3,000, we'll say 2,968, that seek no further education of any kind. Almost half seek no education, no college after high school. Of those 3,000 that are left, we have now, those that do not go further with any education, we don't know. The Department of Education doesn't know how many of those go into the military, and there's a number of other question marks there. So we don't know what's happening with those, but we do know that a lot of those are not going into the workforce. They're doing other things, which is basically doing nothing that is productive as citizens of West Virginia. There's another problem that's come out as we've kind of discovered some information and some facts, and that is that our matriculation rate in state colleges for West Virginia graduates has been dropping steadily. It's a real problem. And so when you take out of that 3,000 that do end up furthering their education, then by the time they matriculate you get to the senior status or into the second year status, you're dealing with losing as many as maybe 1,000 of those 3,000 that are not finishing. That's leaving us somewhere in the neighborhood of around 2,000 of those beginning 6,487 graduates, or seniors rather. There's a real problem and a disconnect there, and I certainly would like to invoke any information and any suggestions. Your workforce committee is trying to bring people in and deal with the issues because they are many, and part of this cooperation and collaboration is vitally important. I will tell you that the workforce participation in West Virginia is about 9% below that of the United States. The level of the United States is about 63%. The level for West Virginia is about 54%. That means we have 46% of our eligible workforce in West Virginia that's not working. They're not engaged. That's part of our problem. That's why we have so many other issues that we're having to deal with. Now, let me go a little farther with that. Do you understand that that's nothing new? We have statistics that go back to 1940. And from 1940, the last 80 years, the chart is almost consistent. The workforce participation rate in West Virginia is 10% below that of the national average for the last 80 years. So whatever we have been doing has not been working. And we need to come up with some new initiatives, some new ideas on how we're going to help these young people, because the largest percentage, according to Workforce West Virginia, of non-participation is the first age group that they cover, and that is ages 16 through 24. We want to know why we can't get workers. We want to know why we're losing the younger generation. It's because something is happening, or some things are not happening in K-12 to get them prepared for either life changes or furthering their education. There are some huge disconnects that have been here for quite a long time. I'd like to bring that out into the public. I'd like to invite the governor and his staff to jump on board, and let's see if we can't attack this problem and help our state. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks? The senior senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to appreciate the efforts that the senator from Raleigh put on 217. I introduced that bill last year after talking to DHHR and realized that it may be able to help things, and the bill didn't really get anywhere. And so this past year during interims, I brought in West Virginia Workforce, DHHR, and personnel, and realized there was no real communication. So when it landed in the senator from Raleigh's committee, he perfected it. So I commend him for that. Also, I would like to announce that, to remind everyone again, every day, 15 minutes before floor session, the West Virginia Legislative Prayer Caucus meets in the Senate President's Conference Room. So just to discuss faith-based legislation and have a quick prayer before we come out here on the floor. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're under remarks. Are there further remarks by members? The senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, on the occasion of the introduction of Senate Joint Resolution 8, which is the elimination of business personal property tax, and the introduction of Senate Joint Resolution 9, which evidently is going to end taxation of motor vehicles, I remind all my friends in here that those are constitutional amendments. And constitutional amendments require more than a majority vote. They require a supermajority. And I've said this for the last couple of days in here, that nobody has asked the Democrats to participate in how we're going to eliminate what is a bad tax, a gross revenue tax in the form of business personal property taxes. But if we're really serious about that, if we're not just throwing up some window dressing to tell people we're going to eliminate it, everybody's got to participate. You have to have the agreement of more than just the 20 on the other side of the aisle. If you go forward without any kind of agreement, there's not going to be any elimination of tax. How could we vote for that? How could we choose to take care of an ever-moving target? I've yet to see a solid number on what exactly the reduction in taxes for our county governments and our public schools is going to be. There should be a fiscal note attached to this. We should be able to make our decisions based on the facts, not hyperbole. But if we take, as a former county commissioner, I can assure you that if we eliminate the business personal property taxes with no replacement at all, except our word that we're going to make it up from the general fund, which is about as good as the next budget crisis, we're going to bankrupt counties. We're going to damage volunteer fire departments that provide 80% of our firefighting capability and keep our homeowners insurance policies from quadrupling or even more without them. We're going to have senior centers that are going to close without the support of their local county commissions. And most important, we are going to permanently damage the public education system that the good senator just spoke about was so important to provide trained employees for all of the opportunities that are available in West Virginia. And I just want to remind everybody again that prior to 2014, when the majority changed, the legislature had lowered taxes $500 million a year. Somewhere around $380 million of that was business taxes. We didn't add a single private employment job in the subsequent years till now. We have according to the National Tax Foundation, we have the 17th lowest taxes overall, better than any of our surrounding states by 10 positions. And we have the 15th lowest business taxes in the country. For decades, we've been one of the cheapest places to do business in the country. I just want to say, as somebody who makes creating jobs and good jobs one of my quests in life to leave behind when I get out of this place, I've never had a business say, your tax structure is out of control, we're not coming. They want a trained workforce, they want facilities, they want to be able to come in here and do business, and I think we have a good state to do business. Let's not screw it up. If we want to do this, if you're serious about doing it, bring us in. Let's see if we can come to an answer that fits the problem. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks, the senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to follow up on the remarks from the senator from Harrison on what we got going on here. First of all, yes, we've got resolutions in place, and I think everybody in this chamber well understands it takes a 2/3 vote to be able to accomplish this. And we do need to work together as a team on what's going on into the future. But this is the beginning of the process and what goes on. As we all know, that these resolutions will go through both judiciary and finance. That means that every member of this body will have access and participation during that process and the ability to amend and work through. And I can tell you that me being the lead sponsor of one of those, that I have every intention of making sure that this entire body participates on the process of what we've got going on here, on hoping, and actually I don't believe it's a hope, I believe it's a 20 to 30 year long overdue effort to be able to make it so that West Virginia can actually attract the manufacturing jobs and give the tax relief to our citizens where it's needed without hurting the counties, without hurting municipalities, without hurting our school systems. That is not the intent. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We have been on a severance tax roller coaster for decades. And the way we smooth it out is by having our rainy day fund. We need to get off of that severance tax roller coaster, and that is what these resolutions attempt to do, Mr. President, is to get us on a smoother path forward like most other states have, and make it so that we have a predictable revenue stream. But what we've done in the past, And I'm not casting any blame in the past, because I can tell you right now that the minority party, when they were the majority party, set the path forward on getting our pension systems straightened out in the state of West Virginia. That the minority party, along with the now majority, also fixed workers' comp, which was a $4 billion nightmare. And that was a team effort that took place. And this is what I'm hoping to see take place as we move forward with this legislation. The minority, when I was in the minority, our job was to police and to push. And that's exactly what the senator from Harrison was recommending that we to do. And I encourage that on this. But we have to, again, I can't stress this enough, we've got to get off the severance tax roller coaster that we've been living on and get us on an escalator to prosperity for all people in West Virginia without hurting. And we don't have all of the answers in the plans that we have right now with the resolutions coming forward. But I'm quite confident with the 34 members that we have in this body that we can come up with a plan that will be good for West Virginia and finally address, and I'm going to back up for 1 second. We've nibbled around the edges on it by taking away the business franchise tax, lowering the corporate net, doing some things, and we're seeing some benefits from that. But we must accelerate that because we're still ranked in the lower areas. Our people deserve better than that. You want to stop the population loss in West Virginia? You want to stop the loss of our best and our brightest? We've got to be able to give them job opportunities. And again, this body has done what I consider a phenomenal job over the last 10 years, so I'm not talking about just when the Republicans are in charge, of putting things in place to make it so that we can retain that. But these resolutions that we're talking about here are a heavy lift, but it's a lift that must be done. And when we do that, we're going to see the results, and we're going to be able to keep our best and brightest at home and have people move to this state for employment opportunities instead of leaving the state for employment opportunities. So I wasn't going to stand up and say anything yet. It's coming. We're going to have a lot of debate on this. But the good part about it is I believe that when it's over and done with, we're going to be able to come together as a collective and actually demonstrate to the House of Delegates that we can work together, and hopefully they can do the same thing in the governor's office, and we finally solve a long-term problem. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks? The senator from Logan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, along with the senator from Harrison, we understand that these taxes are regressive and they're problematic, but we also have to address this with not rose-colored glasses, but we have to be realistic. I live in southern West Virginia. Things are not good in southern West Virginia. Things are really bad in a lot of ways. My colleague from Boone and I hear every day, Boone County, at one time, when some of you all were members of the Finance Committee, was the richest county in the state of West Virginia. Boone County pumped money across this state and built stuff in Morgantown, the Eastern Panhandle, the Northern Panhandle, North Central, Parkersburg area. A lot of the stuff that you all have in other parts of the state, and I'll have these numbers next week. I'm getting a 20-year recap of all coal severance money, the 75% allocation that stayed in the county of the production, and the 25% that went to each city and county based on population. The check just showed up and you had no idea why. It just came, and you spent it, and you used it to balance your budgets. And when I give you those numbers, it's going to blow your mind next week. How much money went to Berkeley County, went to Putnam County. Now you all live in those growth counties, and I don't begrudge you for that. I applaud you for that. Make the most out of it. We didn't always take our opportunities in the past in southern West Virginia and do what we probably should have done with them. But it's still real. The problem is still real. Now, I've got a little bit of history about balancing a budget on a Board of Education. Like I said, I'm a 3-term former member and president. I've balanced a school board budget. I'm also a former county administrator. I've done budgets for county government. If you want our help on this side of the aisle, and I'm going to go ahead and take this latitude for my colleagues, don't come to me with the growth story that we're going to make up all this money by growth. Because in southern West Virginia, that does not resonate. Don't come in and say we're going to cap it at X in southern West Virginia, because it won't be any worse than it is today, but there's no upside potential for you and all hope is lost. Please don't come to me with that. Come to me with something that we can all work together on and move forward on. Boone County, and I keep going back to Boone because they had it all going for them at one time. 60% of all property valuation in Boone County is tied directly to one extractive industries. Is it good? No. Is it fact? Yes. The whole budget in Boone County is now less than the city of Barbersville. I went to school in Barbersville for 2 years when I was a kid, and there wasn't nothing in Barbersville. I applaud what Mayor Tatum's done and his people. But you got to put things into perspective. Southern West Virginia needs this chamber and the one across the hall's help. You can either pull us forward with you now, or you'll continue to pay and subsidize for years and decades to come. We've got to work for all of West Virginia, not just the growth portions. I look at McDowell County. When I worked for Governor Wise and Governor Manchin, we put money in McDowell County. It was a story that is now a realization in Logan, Boone, and Mingo. At one time, there was 140,000 people lived in McDowell County, the heart of the billion-dollar coal fields. It's gone. We've tried to reconnect McDowell, and I think we've made some progress. But we have got to continue to try to diversify southern West Virginia and pull all this together for all of West Virginia. I just please ask you, do not come to me and say that, hey, in the manufacturing, I'm all for manufacturing, but don't come to me and say, hey, we'll make it up with the growth. That can't be the solution. There's got to be something else tangible. Mr. Chairman, I think you've got real severance problems coming in January, February, and March. I've got a little bit of history with the coal industry over the years. Back when I was a lobbyist, I wore the tag Big Coal, and I wore it proudly because coal is what I am and it's where I come from. But when they put the budget together that we'll operate under this year, the one we're currently operating under, the price of met coal has gone down about 30% when the governor's people and our people forecast that budget and put it together. Go to Moody's, Platts, S&P, whoever you want to go to, the price of coal was predicted to go slightly up, not the bottom drop out of it like it has currently done. The prices went from $200 FOB at the port at Hampton Roads. Now it's probably less than $100. I mean, it's not good, and it's not going to get any better. We have to find real solutions for real problems, and I think we stand ready to work with you But it's got to be real. It can't be on paper. It can't be jacking up revenue estimates. It can't be that. It's got to be real. It's got to be real for all of West Virginia. Mr. President, I appreciate your time, and I'll have these numbers on coal severance next week, and I want to give each one of you a copy of how much money has went in to all of West Virginia from the coal fields of southern West Virginia. When my daughter had open heart surgery at WVU Hospital, which I will always be grateful for, some 30 years ago, all that was up there then was the Holiday Inn at Star City and the old Mountaineer Motel. That's all that was there. Hey, WVU, most of what you got came from southern West Virginia. That football stadium we set in, J.R. Bob Rogers is the one that authored that, and we got on board to build that. The old guy from Boone County. We need your help. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks? The senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Logan and senator from Harrison be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Further remarks by members? The junior senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to follow up on comments as well. And I have to agree that the history of West Virginia, we were built on coal. There's no denying that coal built this capital, built our universities, and the thing is that when we were flush with coal money, we didn't move to even look ahead long enough to look and see, will this sustain us forever? And that's the problem that we're seeing. I agree with senators when you talk about severance tax dropping out because of the industry dropping out. We can no longer be a one-trick pony in West Virginia. And in order to be able to help every county, every city around West Virginia, we have got to grow the productivity of West Virginians. The productivity both in getting jobs, getting them back into the workforce, and getting that gross domestic product, which is what coal produced for so long, up to where we are competitive on not just a national level now, but a global level. Because global economy is a large part of what has really diminished coal. Aside from the regulatory policies not so long ago that affected it, we export a lot of coal in West Virginia when the other countries are asking for it. When they don't, we don't. And that's what's happening to us now. If we're going to be able to provide the services of government, and everybody in this room wants to be able to do the things that your constituents ask you to come up here to do. We all have constituents that have needs from the state's function, from what we do with governance, from the less able individuals that are in our constituency, to the people that are needing assistance to get them back into a workforce, the people, the single mothers that need the help. That only happens. You can only grow the ability to serve that if you grow GDP. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So we have to look and see what are states doing that grow their GDP. Because if we don't, if our GDP goes down, our gross domestic product, the productivity of the citizens of West Virginia, if that is stifled by policy we act or don't enact here, those services of government are not available. We go to the feds begging for help. That's what happens. And that's as about as much a roller coaster as our coal severance tax. This is an effort to try to get it to where our revenue is so strong in West Virginia that we're able to go back in and provide those services. And we want your help. You know, with my chairman here for the Senate Finance Committee, we've had discussions about the biggest, most difficult part of this is probably more political than fiscal. And we do need to get past that political challenge so that we can take advantage of having the fiscal opportunity that we have now to help all West Virginians. So I appreciate the comments, but I can tell you the heart of this effort is around helping all of West Virginia. So, Mr. President, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the remarks. The senator from Braxton County.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know something we need to remember about our state? All we want to talk about is coal. Friends, Back in the heyday, coal was a small part of West Virginia. Go along the Ohio River. We led the nation in production. Central West Virginia, Lewis County, we had the largest glass plants in the world. Raynell, West Virginia, had the largest hardwood flooring plant in the world. Richwood, West Virginia, had the largest pen factory in the world. We've been on the manufacturing side of things. We need to come up with a real solution to what our problem is. But you know, it doesn't do us any good to just jump out here and do something to say that we've done something. We've got to sit down and actually figure out what we can do to stimulate manufacturing. I agree, Senator, we cannot be a one-horse pony anymore. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But we do need to remember, at one time, West Virginia led the nation in a lot of manufacturing. We had the largest tannery in the country, I believe, in Durban, and I think that's Marlington in the Pocahontas County area. So if you start going around our state and look at the things that we had, we've got to figure out, why did we lose it? That's the answer. But you know, we've been a lot more than a coal state. And like I said, if all of us will sit and think about, you know, the chemical industry. We led the chemical industry. There's a lot of things that we were the leaders, and something happened. Now, I wished I could tell you what it was. But we do know this. The only way this thing's going to get fixed is for us to put our Letterman's jackets off and work as West Virginians to work together and do this. And I don't think there's any member in this body that agrees that we want to make West Virginia better for everybody, not just parts of the state, but for everybody. And the only way that's going to happen is to quit being Democrats and Republicans and be West Virginians. And I'm committed to try to work in any way I can to try to make this happen. But let's remember, West Virginia was a lot more than a coal state in its day, and that's what we need to understand. We did it before, we can do it again. We just got to figure out how we're going to do it and work together in doing it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there further remarks? Further remarks. The junior senator from the 17th.
A couple items, Mr. President. Number one, I request unanimous consent that the remarks from the senators from Harrison and Putnam be placed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, so ordered.
Secondly, I'd just like to let the body know that Jay Eckert's surgery went well yesterday. He was in a little bit of pain, but apparently he's been texting members of the Senate. So just want to give everybody an update to please keep him and his family in your prayers. That's all. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? We're under remarks. The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the remarks by the senators from Berkeley, Braxton, somebody get Logan, the fourth, be printed in the appendix to the journal.
Senator from Morgan County requests unanimous consent that the remarks by the senior senator from the 15th, the senator from Braxton County, the junior senator from the 4th, the senator from Logan, and the senator from Harrison be printed in the appendix of the journal. Is there objection or additions? Not so ordered. Recognize the senator from Marion under remarks.
I want to make a request, Mr. President. The comments from the senator from Boone on West Virginia Day on Resolution 10, his comments be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, so ordered. The junior senator from 17th is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I also request unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Raleigh regarding education be placed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Under remarks, or the additional remarks by members? Not miscellaneous business. Junior senator from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two items. Number one, I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that the president's dinner, we did change the date. Apparently there were some conflicts with receptions and as well as members that had personal items, so it's been moved to February 4th. I apologize for the change of the date, but just want to make everyone aware of that. It'll be a good evening. Hope everybody can come out and make it. Number two, pending announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? Are there announcements? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will meet this afternoon at 3 p.m. in room 208 West Wing.
The senior senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 2 p.m. in 451M.
Senator from Marshall County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Health will meet today at 1 p.m. in Finance. The agenda has been posted.
The senior senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet today at 2 p.m. in 208 West. The agenda has been posted.
Senator from Raleigh County.
President, your Committee on Workforce will meet as soon as possible after caucus tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Further announcements. The junior senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Finance will meet at 3 p.m. this afternoon in the Finance Committee room. We'll have budget hearings from the Department of Arts, Culture and History, Public Service Commission, and the Consumer Advocate. Thank you.
Further announcements. The senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to remind everybody that we'll have the West Virginia Public Health Caucus tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in 208 West. Dr. Kathy Slimp will be there as a part of that caucus.
Are there further announcements? Not the question before the Senate is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the Senate adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.